Welcome, I am Giovanni Tokarski.
And I am Giulio Quarta.
You're listening to Platform Coops Now, the podcast, a biweekly podcast on the platform cooperativism movement and how to realize your cooperative project and much more.
How do we, the workers of the world, can get democratically organized at a global scale? How do we get beyond platform capitalism? How can we build a better future of care, joy and abundance for the many and not for the few?
Enjoy, subscribe, and don't forget to share your thoughts and experience. Welcome to Platform Coops Now, the podcast. Welcome to the first episode of our podcast, and today we will talk about what are the challenges that platform co-ops are currently facing and what they will be facing in the future. And also we'll touch upon the course that this podcast is promoting. So today with us we have Ana Aguirre from TASEBAES and one of the organizers of the Platform Coops Now course and member of the Youth Cooperative Network, and Damiano from Italy, co-founder of Airbnb and now working with Platform Design Toolkit and Hypernova. So can you guys quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super happy that this podcast is starting and that we are in the first program. So thanks for that, you too. Yeah, correct. I'm Ana Aguirre. I'm co-founder of my own co-op as well, worker-owned co-op called TASEBAES. That means and why not? And I'm, as you said, member of the youth network of the International Cooperative Alliance, where I serve as VP for Europe. And yeah, in this crazy adventure of the Platform Coops Now course, I dived in the lead team, and I'm working on the operations side of it. So I manage mostly the partners, the logistics behind, and make sure that things run as smoothly as possible. And yeah, so I'm a co-op member myself, which for me is what gives me the strength to voice my opinions and gives me the coherence that I need to be in rooms where I know that there are people that academically speaking or in terms of knowledge, maybe even more knowledgeable than me. But I do have the experience of creating my own co-op since 2009. So as we were talking before, this gives me over 10 years experience, and I feel that it's not a startup anymore either. So that's fun.
Thank you for having me here. I'm very happy to know that this podcast has started. Science is very good to share learnings from practitioners and start to build, let's say, some collective learnings on what we learn. Just I think it's really important to have this type of podcast. Science it's useful to build collective learnings from practitioners. And my name is Damiano, and I work for Hypernova. It is a tech cooperative from Italy. I also work for Platform Design Toolkit. That is boundaryless, that is the creator of the Platform Design Toolkit. And right now I'm working on trying to tackle the problem of creating competitive cooperative platforms through ecosystemic strategies. So how can we address the challenges that need to be addressed to be competitive in a market that is really hard and that is really diverse as the platform one.
Okay, thank you again for being here, and I think we can start. As you said, Damiano, we want to speak about practice and practitioners because we think it is the missing piece in the cooperative and more broadly the social economy space, real business that actually works. And in fact, for this reason, we wanted to be the first episode. And we want to talk about your experiences, in particular, Damiano. So we will start from Airbnb, one of the most known and relevant platform co-ops in the space. And then also Ana will talk about all the platform co-ops you saw in this 2, 3, 4 years of activity. And yeah, before starting, Damiano, I want to clear a distinction for the public that maybe is useful, because we were speaking the other day with Giovanni too. And what is the difference between what is a platform COPS and what is simply a digital COPS? And I think that the difference, then you can say yours, is that, for example, a local cooperative that sells vegetables to the people. It's a cooperative. If it makes a website, it doesn't become a platform COPS because we have a website. And neither cooperative that is owned by tech workers, for example, programmers that incorporate themselves as a cooperative, it is not a platform COPS. They are just tech workers in a cooperative. So a platform COPS, basically, it is a cooperative business that is fundamentally enabled by digital tools and platforms. And also, most of the case, it is a marketplace connecting multiple agents, multiple needs, and multiple stakeholders. And it is, of course, owned by stakeholders. And please, Damiano, tell us, how did it go?
So just a little point. I think that Platform Coop, the idea of Platform Coop, is a model, and model are not real, let's say, but some of them are useful. So the idea of platform cooperatives, so that you have users and the stakeholders that are affected by the platform that somehow are part of the governance and the ownership of the company behind the platform itself, is a powerful idea. Then what it really is, a platform cooperative, it's still in the making, let's say, but clearly the main point is to have users that are part of the governance and the ownership. Then since legislation is very different places, and that needs could be different among different type of platforms, the model could vary and be diversified. Just one thing on the experience of Airbnb, I think that is interesting, because also Airbnb at the moment is not like a proper platform COP yet, let's say. I left my role as vice president and COP ecosystem lead at the beginning of July. So I'm not really up to date at this moment. I can see that in the journey we had to learn many things. I think that somehow still Airbnb didn't match the expectation that were behind the project. Let's say 5 years ago, when we started Airbnb, let's say we started in different groups. So I can tell you a little bit the journey and what have been the main problems relatively to this initiative. So we started in different groups. My group was in Bologna, was mainly bringing the idea of redistributing the surplus creating by platforms, in this case a platform, a touristic platform, to create social good, to create solidarity economy. Then we had two other groups in Venice and Amsterdam that were more focused on trying to create a platform to address the problem of over-tourism. So let's say we had the start that it was not at the beginning easy, because we decided to come together to have more, let's say, to be bigger, to have more resources and so on. And this was made because also the idea of an alternative to Airbnb or to a touristic platform should be built on a network effect that was almost global. Let's say I go on booking.com, on airbnb.com, because I know that I can book a room almost wherever and find a good price and a good location. So we started to not doing a platform only in Bologna or a platform only in Venice for this reason, let's say. But starting together in this way, so different groups that didn't know each other create a lot of friction, let's say, in the course of time, that in the end brought me to leave the cooperative at the end. I'm still a member, but my operative roles. So I think that there are few points, internal points that need to be addressed at Platform Cooperatives. So how do I make the things? How do I create a platform? How do I find the right developers and so on? So this thing is mainly affected by the background of those that start platform cooperatives that are mainly that have activist mindset, let's say, more than entrepreneurial one. So this is one thing that need to be addressed. Not only this, but also the ability to understand platform strategy. How do I build which is the best launching strategy? I need to reach the critical mass. Many people inside the platform COP don't even understand the concept of critical mass, the chicken and egg problem inside platforms and so on. So there is a huge lack in technical competences. And from the other hand, at least from our perspective, internally the team had really different vision, not only for the platform itself but for the world. So and my suggestion here is really to find people that you really get along with and you have a similar idea relatively to the world, let's say. So personal aspiration and group aspiration, it need to be clear from the beginning which are these two elements. And then I think from the external point of view, the storytelling of Airbnb is very good. Like the story is super good. It's really easy to understand. You just it works that the commission, half of it goes to social projects. So it's basically everyone earn the same, spend the same, but there is a benefit for the whole society. So the storytelling works, but then you need to have feedback. Let's say if in the journey you promise certain things to your community, to your users, and then you don't respect that, you don't achieve that, let's say, you risk to lose the trust. And I think in Airbnb it was we didn't really speak about this in a transparent way, let's say, and we didn't analyze enough, self-reflection on our mistakes, and I think this is what it has been a little bit missing from our experience of these years. Clearly, we could talk about this for hours, but I think the main takes are relatively to personal and group aspiration, alienation, governance, and the team competencies, and on the ability of learning from your mistakes.
Well, thank you, Damiano. And as you said, yeah, we can talk about it for hours. Unfortunately, we're trying to keep the podcast short. So those are great points, and we'll address them later on throughout the podcast as well. But for now, well, Anna, can you tell us a bit shortly about the course, how it works, how it's structured, and a bit the experience you had with the previous editions?
Yeah, so this is a very young adventure, right? This has only been going on for the last year and a little bit more now. I think the first course launched in May 2020, which means that it's not even a year since we started. And the goal was understanding, as co-op members that we all were, and two professors in universities, how could we give support to those people that were staying at home or suddenly losing their jobs or the quality of their employment in this pandemic. And the reality of that was that people were locked down at home. So obviously an online course seemed to be a great possibility. And so Mondragon University, alongside the New School, and Tasebaes as my company, as supporter of Mondragon University, we gathered to create a course that was actually accessible for everyone. One of the goals was to not have people be left behind because of the price, which was a challenge within the two institutions, because you may know that both of them, even though quite social in their core, they at the end of the day, it's private universities, right? So we developed a course in 3 weeks that in other situation would last over 3 months. And we started, we ran it out at $150 for developing countries and $40 for non-developer or in developing, right? Which for me, it's that quite, it generates this debate on which people are better off. There's people that are better off in developing countries than non-developing and everything, but we needed to draw the line somewhere. And we have made exceptions, obviously, because one of the things that we wanted was that real people that wanted to create real companies will come to the course. And in those cases, sometimes are people that live in developing countries, but they don't have the capacity at that point, or didn't have it, right? And the goal was to generate a space where platform co-ops will become a possibility for people. Because one of the things that we always see with cooperatives is that for some reason, they're always standing on the sidelines. They are looked over the shoulder by the general market, and sometimes they are confused with NGOs or companies that don't need profit. And for us, it was very important to acknowledge that these were going to be real companies that were going to create real alternatives for people's jobs and livelihood, right? So we started the course with the hopes of maybe reaching 100 people in the first edition from an independent or non-set amount of countries, and we started reaching out at people from the youth network because I had those contacts, but everyone just reached out. Turns out the first edition launched with over 400 people and over 40 partners in almost 50 countries, which was way crazier than any of us expected at any possible dream. And so we launched with the beginner's mindset of understanding that this was going to be an emergency course and that we needed to run it through as it came. The course is divided in two different blocks. One of them is the first one that it's a little bit more on the theoretical part and taking people through the history of both the platform co-ops, the gig economy, and the cooperative core itself, understanding why co-ops are meaningful and why co-ops may be an alternative to a general public that maybe they are experts on co-ops, because we have people that are already working in co-ops, but there are other people that have never heard it, and I'm not really sure how they got to the course, but this is a great adventure, so everyone's welcome. So once we're in the same page, that is the goal of those four workshops at the beginning, then we jump to a second part that has 10 models on how to create your idea of business model on platform co-ops. At the beginning, some people were very confused because they thought like, okay, so I'm going to be able to launch my platform co-op right off the 10 models. And reality is that no one creates a company in 10 weeks and is able to launch like with all full-on cooperative. But at the end of the day, what we did have is quite a developed idea with maybe a prototype that is not working at the back end, but it may be working in the front end, and that has a feasible or at least quite a developed hypothesis of whether it's going to work or not. So that was our goal, and reality is that I think was quite accomplished. There's a lot of problems going on, right? Because everything's done live. 3 weeks are a very short time. Partners are from 4 countries. Time zones are crazy. So I was teaching at 1 o'clock in the morning, 6 p.m. New York time. But New York was great. But Europeans, we were dead half the time. And then there are a lot of lacks. For example, one of the challenges that we've put in the table from the very beginning is, are we able to offer a stronger backbone on development? Can we teach the technology itself in a deeper level for those people that really want to develop their co-ops and understand the backend working? I think that we need to acknowledge that this is a very beginner's course. This is just a course that will check on your ideas, and it will launch you to the space where you can go next and maybe join a pre-accelerator or an incubator with your idea, right? So we can't pretend to say that this is going to make you an entrepreneur. You're going to be a digital magician and a super cool entrepreneur on platform co-ops, because this will nowhere be realistic. Another of the challenges, and Giulio also is involved on this one, is how much can we follow up with projects, right? How person to person we can do our follow-up. And while it's true that we're trying to generate like a good personal connection with people and to have the follow-up and support that people need and startups need, our time is limited. We are a very small team, very underfunded. And we have, we have a real job, people. I know, I mean, this is my job, part of my job, but this is nowhere my full-on job. So we did this, and sometimes I feel that we rise the expectations of how much manpower do we have for follow-up. And it breaks my heart because there's so many good initiatives that could be followed up and could use the support, but reality is that we don't have the capacity to do it. But what we're trying to do in this sense is how do we generate an autonomous community that can support one another as much as possible in a way, and create the links among people. And I think that although there are a lot of points to strengthen throughout the next editions, we've been better in the second edition than we were in the first, right? Because in the second edition, where we also had around 400 participants, which was equally shocking as the first time, we've actually accomplished a lot more in terms of follow-up. I think partners were at more ease because they knew how the process was going to go. We added new partners in different countries, and the third edition will come. There's going to be new partners. Hopefully we don't reach 400 people. No, I'm kidding. Hopefully we do reach 400 people, but I think that it's important to acknowledge that it's not only the quantity, it's also the quality of the people that come along. And for that, we've also seen that there are different profiles of people that join the course. Some of them are entrepreneurs, some of them are just curious random people. Some of them are professors that are practitioners, are willing to teach. Some of them are people on policy and office and that will do advocacy. And some of them are researchers. So we're trying to make sure that each person gets a very good follow-up with the course. So those are our challenges right now. Obviously, funding is always a challenge. People and follow-up is always a challenge. And we run it in 2 universities, so this definitely is a challenge. But it's a fun challenge. We work our way up, and I think people are happy, which is what I really like, and some of the initiatives come through very well. So I think it's really a
this ecosystemic view that it also was what the mainstream market platforms is promoting. And I know from Platform Design Toolkit, that is also a company which Damiano is working with, that promote platform design business models, how to think and act like a platforms and so on. Is that we need to build a Platform Coops and ecosystem of Platform Coops ecosystem. So Damiano, I think it's your turn, because I heard that you are building one. It's called Coop Valley, but it's not just a cooperative, it's also a startup studio. It's you're building an ecosystem, so tell us.
So I do agree that thinking in an ecosystemic way is probably one of the most important thing that we have to do right now. I won't say that you really build an ecosystem, but maybe you can catalyze an ecosystem. You can really aggregate and put the elements that are already there in a way that actually can help to produce positive outcome, so that exactly those that participate, those that are part of this ecosystem actually are facilitated and empowered. So this basic idea from my journey, I've been learning that really it's important to have those conditions that help to develop projects. And it is not very easy because cooperatives weren't built to do digital platforms. So the cooperative model wasn't made for this, and also, for example, how the capital works. So how the fundraising work in the cooperative ecosystem is not thought to address startups that normally have high risks, needs lots of capital, and have returns in years and not in few months. So basically, we started the project of Coop Valley, that is the idea of creating, let's say, a sort of Silicon Valley for platform cooperatives, for digital commons. So the basic idea is that if we start from the idea started actually from a geographical point of view. I'm in Bologna normally, and Bologna and the Emilia-Romagna, the region, is one of the most cooperative in the world. 1/3 of the GDP is produced by cooperatives. So and you have a very good university, you have a public administration that somehow is sensible to these elements. So there is this theory that is the five helix innovation theory, something like this. And we have all these 5 helix, that is public administration, industry, university, civil society, and natural environment, let's say. So if you put these 5 resources together, you can create an ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem. Then basically what we are doing, how do we catalyze this ecosystem? So how do we produce this ecosystem that helps cooperative entrepreneurs, activists to have all the resources to create successful platform? And this is where we started to think about a startup studio for platform cooperatives, and this is what we are building. So Startup Studio basically is an organization that built startup in parallel. So in 1 year, you launch 3, 4, 5 startups. In our case, platform cooperatives. How do we do it? By creating a process that minimize costs and time. So you validate for each step certain thing. How do I validate the problem that I'm trying to solve? How do I validate the strategy that I'm building? How do I validate my product, and so on? So what we want to do at a local level, but also more as an international point, and it's to solve mainly 4 problems that are coordination, trust, competencies, and capital. There was this podcast in the Boundaryless podcast, the platform design podcast of Dave Snowden, and they say that to compete right now, really, you need to build organization that have central coordination and distributed decision making. So I think that this could be somehow our leitmotif, our way of proceeding. So trying to give and build, co-create those tools that are organizational tools, that are strategic tools, that are technological tools, that will allow everyone and all these different community of practices to create their own platform or find the right competencies to make a journey to their platform. Yeah, this is more or less the basic idea of Coop Valley.
Okay, but what positive elements you want to take from the Silicon Valley, both at the level of imaginaries and realities, and what instead do you want to reject as a model?
So one of the things that is interesting and that Silicon Valley platforms do well is to manage, let's say, all those tools that allow the growth and the fast development of certain digital products, so to address the needs of the users and their way, the lean way of proceeding in building digital products is very successful. So it is about trying to learn these things that will make us more competitive, let's say. But on the other hand, really, I think that there is a huge ideology behind this technology. We tend to think that technology doesn't have an ideology behind, but this is completely wrong. And the ideology that is brought by these platforms is like that your job as an entrepreneur is trying to extract more value from the user, and on the other hand is like that it doesn't matter what are the law of the country you are operating in. It doesn't matter if you pay or not pay the taxes. It doesn't matter even how you treat your employees. So I think it's also, and this is not something that I really like, actually, I hate, is how, there is this focus on hyper productivity and the fact that if you need to just leave for working. I don't want to live like this. In the past, maybe some months, some years during Airbnb, I really worked all my days, but it really, I think it's not the point. Is if you do work like this in the long term, even if you are doing nice things, but if your ethic of work is that, probably you are missing a little bit the point. So these are two things: to take certain technical competencies that we need to reject almost all the rest.
Yeah, what I really like about Damiano and his project and his mindset is that he really focuses on cost minimization and performance. Okay, that again, this is the only topic in capitalist economy. Okay, and the cooperative sphere maybe is not so focused on that, but I think that to succeed as an ecosystem, Platform Coops should find the best balance, the best possible balance between cost minimization and social good. Okay, because in the ideal world we could do anything we want without cost problems, but in the real world we have limited resources. We have to optimize. So cooperatives have a different mindset, a different history, and also different objectives. So let's speak about this. How do cooperatives want to digitalize their activity? How do they see the digital world? And so, yeah, Anna and Damiano, what do you see in terms of digitalization of the cooperative ecosystem?
I think it would be very foolish to think that at this time and age, one can work without digital tools, right? I think that if we look at all the trends and growth, measuring, optimizing processes, to try and say that digitalization and digital tools are not valid would be very foolish, and maybe I would be kicked out of the of this podcast right away, right? Because what would I be thinking? But I think that as in everything with collabs, I think it's much more of how you use them and what do you use them for, rather than the fact of what do you use. Right, I think you said it before, and it's very linked to the previous point on what is the impact and how do we generate an ecosystem that works within a reality that we all live on. I mean, the pandemic has only just been a very good show of the crisis we were living in to begin with, and it has accelerated processes that would have taken years. Also, in terms of digitalization, I think people have jumped to a digital era within months. And the university applies, like our university would have never accelerated to the extent that they have accelerated if it weren't because of the pandemic, which takes the bad things, that is that people are not ready. Most people are not ready to take on work with digital tools. They don't know how they work. They don't know which tools they have at hand. They don't know which tools are best for whatever process they're trying to implement. And I think like there is this moment where we can support the generation of tools that and processes that allow co-ops to rise again. For me, this digital era and seeing platform co-ops rise up, and not just cooperatives using digital tools, which we've have very clear that it's not the same thing to have platform co-ops and cooperatives that use digital tools, because it's not the same thing. In my experience, change within co-ops is not necessarily fast, right? So this is a challenge. Because suddenly we need to all agree, or most of us agree, or some of us agree at least, that this change needs to be done. And because, especially in worker-owned co-ops, people need to really, really thrive within the change. And this is a challenge. And I think that digital tools just bring one more challenge where people need to, put their minds on and work. But what I've seen is that there are a lot of people working to create digital tools, both for platforms and from non-platform co-ops, to make their life easier. And I think that it's important to make sure that these platforms or these companies or these digital businesses that are in form of co-op are known, because for me, the difference is that once again, those businesses that are generated will impact society in a different way than non-co-ops would. So once again, we stand in the crossroads. How good are we going to be to show which businesses are thriving in the digital era? Because I think we've done a terrible job advertising what co-ops do. And I think it's important that people know that also in this field of work, there are co-ops that are doing excellent job at generating new tools and supporting companies to generate digital ecosystems. I am nowhere near the best person to talk about digital tools, because I am very poorly trained, and I've been forced into reading about how blockchain works in the very surface, and I've slept over the book hundreds of times because I couldn't bear with the talk. But I am doing an accelerated course on the digital ecosystem of platform co-ops because that's what I needed to do. And I'm seeing great companies be willing to work with other co-ops to embrace their challenges in terms of digital ecosystem. So for me, this is very empowering, I think that it's always been a difference between co-ops and non-co-ops, the amount of cooperation and solidarity that exists within the businesses. And I think that in this digital era, we just need to keep it that way and make sure that it doesn't transform our values. I think that in that sense, we need to go back to the core and understand why we're doing what we're doing. Without forgetting that at the end of the day, we're businesses that need to be excellently managed, that if we don't do profit and we don't focus on results, we will die. Therefore, there will be not co-op in digital era because we will die. So I think it's important to make sure that on the one hand, we understand that co-ops are doing a good job generating alternatives to digital businesses. Two, we can generate an ecosystem with solidarity is present, and these digital tools are going to just make it smoother. If we're able to do that, we will need to try not to compete against each other, like we did in Mondragon back in the day, where the motto was do not compete against each other, compete with each other, like to make ourselves better. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the cooperatives that are created in the digital field are profitable, are excellent in management, and that they are competitive at the global level, because only the ecosystem of co-ops is not enough to survive. And we need to be competing about global agents. So in that sense, and I think we totally have the capacity. People are very good at what they do in the co-op system as well.
So I do think that in general, there are, I say there are cooperatives that do already awesome digital products, and also I think that in the old, let's say, cooperative movements, so those that were born 10, 20, 50 years ago, there are lots of assets that can be leveraged to create new forms of platforms, and that the main challenge is how do we coordinate, let's say, how do we manage not to compete one another, how do we manage to build common assets. Right now there is a lot of fragmentation, so maybe people are doing a job that already other people have been doing and they don't even know. So it is about how do we facilitate this? How do we facilitate cooperation also at a global level? There are some platforms that can remain at a local level. Network effect is quite different from one platform to another. So the network effect basically, sometimes it needs to be at a national level, so sometimes it needs to be at a city level. To make an example, food delivery startup might also start just at a local level, just in one city. A sort of BlaBlaCar, it needs to be, let's say, at a national level. A touristic platform needs to be maybe more at least an European level. Clearly right now with COVID, things have been changing a lot, but to me there is one main thing in general in the context, that the people start to questioning how the digital product that they are using are made, and lots of people are looking for more fair alternatives, more sustainable alternatives. So this is something that we can really take from this moment, and there will be there is the opportunity in the next 10, 20, 30 years of shaping different ways of doing business, let's say, or just producing value, I will say. And the difference is, like, yes, we need to be sustainable economically, we need to make profit, but in this case, in the cooperative, what does it mean to make profit? It means that you are sustainable economically, you can guarantee good wages to the people that work inside the different companies, and you use this profit to redistribute, to create new initiatives, and produce more values for the users that you have. Also, another thing is like that there are many companies that might want to become cooperative. In this moment, I'm working with Hydra, that is a platform that want to become a platform coop, that is a normal, that have a normal company behind, and we are in the path of defining and understanding how we can make this transition. So it's not just cooperatives that want to build platforms, old cooperatives that want to be to become platforms, or cooperative entrepreneurs that want to build platform coops, but there are also existing platforms that want to become cooperatives. So it is about building this enabling blocks, let's say, that can empower this change. And I think that there is another thing that needs to be addressed: the coherence. Right now, everyone sell themselves as sustainable, but if we don't make very clear which are the differences, and if we don't really protect our values and our way of work, we will be somehow we won't be able to stand and say, okay, we are really different, because everyone picture themselves, even big corporation right now are doing social washing, greenwashing, and all this sort of stuff. So another thing is also really to be able to show how different we are, and to prove that different models not only are more fair, but actually can work and work even better. And there is this concept that I really like, that is the cooperative advantage. Where we can find cooperative advantages? Probably certain platforms, existing platforms, cannot be hacked. We cannot create alternatives because they are too difficult to hack. But there are plenty of niches of market where we can actually have a cooperative advantage, where people will prefer to join in a platform cooperative instead of a normal platform. So let's find these niches where we have cooperative advantage, and let's build those enabling blocks that actually empower these initiatives.
Well, thank you guys. I think you really said like everything really well, and I would like actually to expand a little bit more on it, because I think Damiano was talking about, you know, the risk of overworking yourself within a cooperative, and that's something that's still very like present in the entrepreneurship capitalistic ideology, right? And it's something that's very individualistic. You know, you hear those stories of people, you know, dropping their friends and working 10 years in a row of 100 hours per week, and in a way, yeah, that's very individualistic, and to me it seems very in contrast with the cooperative movement. And also on that, I think you both touched upon the harvesting the digital tools that are present, and also just being a functioning and effective business. And I'm talking about this because I was reading a paper by Sandoval, I think, and essentially he presents a critic of Platform Coops. It's a constructive critic. He's not against the movement, but what he's saying is that in the current legal framework, well, Platform Coops are on a very like fine line between turning themselves into capitalistic businesses to become successful, to become profitable, and staying true to their values. And he essentially concludes that well, there needs to be legal change, a legal framework for cooperatives to be functioning, because we cannot measure the success of cooperatives only in terms of profit and them being sustainable financially. So I would like to hear a bit from both of you, like, and Giulia as well. This is an open discussion. What do you guys think of this? And also, how do you see the movement in 10, 15, 20 years? Can it be, well, can it be side to side with a capitalistic business, or is the goal essentially to be a viable alternative that will, I don't want to say overthrow, but replace capitalism as we know it?
Okay, so I think for me there are like different stages when you start a company, right? That it's important to acknowledge that most startups overwork, independently if they're co-ops, if they're anything. And I think the difference is where your vision of the company relays or where it stands, right? If you are, and this is why inside of the cooperative movement, I am a huge advocate of worker co-ops, because I think that when the people that are working are the ones that take decisions, and therefore whatever decision they make in terms of pay rate, working hours, and anything directly pains or directly impacts the people that have made that that decision, it's when, you know, accountability comes, right? So for me, it's not so much on the cooperative side, which is true. I think in the worker co-ops, and this, I'm so happy with this space because it allows me to say that I am a huge advocate of worker co-ops, and therefore I think that the real utopic scenario where cooperatives stand is worker-owned or multi-stakeholder, if that's necessary, obviously for finance or for other power balance or whatever. But I think that yes, it's true that workers may be self-exploitative, but I think all of us, when we grow up or when we have more life, make different decisions. And I've seen it on my own co-op, and we want more time. When the company matures, people want better lifestyle. So I think that the best possible solution is create a worker co-op, where people take the decisions and people live up with the decisions that they've made, and accountability is real, participation is real. and people are going to be able to, you know, make sure that they can't complain to someone else because they made the decision themselves. And if something needs to change, then they'll be able to do it. And I think that for me, this is the utopic scenario. And I think this applies to platform co-ops. I think it will be multi-stakeholder, but at the end of the day, it's worker co-ops.
Yes, I think to tackle just a few things on legislation. Clearly, we need to improve and create also a legal framework that can help to drive these initiatives. On the other hand, what is going to happen, I think, in the next 10, 20, 30 years is like that, or we change completely how we produce things, produce value, share services. So, and we change the system, let's say, or we will end up in a crisis that will be so huge. We are already in a crisis, economically speaking, socially speaking, and environmentally speaking. So I hope that actually cooperative can help to lead the way, also from a systemic point of view. On the other hand, from the form of workers co-op or multi-stakeholder co-ops in general, one of the big problem on platform cooperatives is that you have many different actors. So you don't have just one type of actor. You don't have just one type of workers. You know, you have the users. You might have like peer producers, so that those that offers, the users that offer something in a platform, and you have user peer consumers, so or users that consume the value that is offered by other users. And also you have the team that actually is managing the technical structure. So clearly we need to find also different forms and this type of multi-stakeholders that the main thing I think Anna said correctly is accountability. So it's really important that there is accountability and that the team that is behind the technical part cannot, so making sure that there is not one single group that can take the decision, but there is accountability behind. So this is the main thing relatively to the governance, I think.
Okay, so there could be literally hours of discussion from my perspective, because we can speak about the transition to post-capitalism, the paradox of moving from profit to no-profit economics, the fact that we are speaking about workers and we want the economy to be worker-owned, but we also want to free the people from work necessity, and to see work as a different issue in respect to what we know it now. But time is running out. So, Giovanni, if you want to...
Yeah. So we talked about systemic change, and I think systemic change goes through education. And just to, well, as we said, the goal of this podcast essentially is to, it's much more, but it's to promote the course. So talking about education, how will PCN3, Platform Coops Now 3, try to address these challenges, and who do you think the course is for? Who should participate?
The course is open to everyone, and the good thing is that we have such diversity of people that everyone benefits from it in a way. If you're looking for a super technical course on backend and platform development, then probably this is not your probably not, for sure this is not your case. But if you are a researcher on platform co-ops that wants to contribute to the movement, if you are a practitioner who is willing to teach platform co-ops or platform cooperative entrepreneurship tools to students or other people, please come. If you are an entrepreneur that is willing to test their ideas and create a network of people that is working on platform co-ops worldwide, and you're willing to develop your prototype or at least your idea and have it well set on terms of hypothesis, this is your place. And if you're a policymaker or an office, or you're going to do advocacy and you're going to be creating the structure for all of us to work on platform co-ops, this is also your place. So I think that the space is broad. if you're just a curious soul that wants to know what platforms is all about, please come to. I think this is super, super, super good. You're going to be facing new concepts. People are going to talk about governance. They're going to talk about how platform works, how their platform works. It's the dialogues are extremely interesting and intense sometimes. The workload is fair, it's 15 weeks, but you can have a full-time job and still accomplish the course. And it's not super demanding in terms of delivery. So I think the best thing that you'll get out of this course is concepts on platform co-ops, understanding if your hypothesis or your idea is usable and it's real and it does make sense for the world. And then a huge network of people that are working in similar challenges than you in at least 40 to 50 countries. So come share your thoughts and learn with us and teach the rest of us too.
Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you, Damiano. And just to have like a quick quirky segment, what's your favorite platform co-op, maybe from your region? Just one interesting co-op that's working quite well that you would like to share with the public.
Okay, I'll go first. I have a very soft spot on my heart for delivery co-op here in the Basque region, in Vitoria, in Gasteiz, in the capital. It's called Eraman.coop. That Eraman means to take, so it's Basque for that. And I didn't know, but one of the founders is of the group of friends of my brother. So it's very close. The Basque country is very small. And I think it's interesting for me because it's a group of young people. There's 24, 26, something like that, that started the fight against like Glovo and Deliveroo and Uber Eats, Just Eat. And decided not to only complain, but to generate an alternative, and to see young people generating co-ops that are an alternative to whatever problem they are fighting, for me was super inspiring, right? And they managed to launch with 4 people. They are already 12. Within like 6-7 months, the company is already profitable. So they are making profit out of it in making it sustainable. So I think for me, it's incredible that the youth is super active. I'm tired of hearing like young people only complain, because these are a great example, not of a platform co-op, but of a new generation fighting for something and actually creating an alternative to the status quo. So for me, Eraman and the colleague that I know, it's Juan Latorre, I think it's a shout out because, and they are also not only taking on CoopCycle as a software for the platform co-op, they are helping CoopCycle to translate all the onboarding guide to Spanish. So they are capable of helping the Latin countries in South America that have more trouble with English. So they are working with CoopCycle also to give back to the community of platform co-ops and drivers. So I think it's super good.
I think I really like, for example, Up and Go, that is a platform cooperative in New York for cleaning services. I saw the path during the annual conference in New York. I saw them, I think, for the first time 3 years ago, and then last year, and I saw how well they managed to grow and to really provide value for the users, for the member of the cooperative, that are people that through the platform can earn more for their cleaning service, can be more protected, and so on. So I think this is a very good example.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to conclude. In the description of the platform through which you are listening to us, you will find links about what we talk about, the cooperatives, the sources of knowledge. Please subscribe if you are a cooperator to our Hilo space, because we want to say hello to Slack and go to a platform Coops instead of using a corporate space. And follow our new Instagram channel, and please contact us through our mail if you need anything. We'll also leave the contacts of Anna and Damiano if you want to write them. They're very available and happy to answer you. And so, Anna and Damiano, if you want to add something, you are free to do it. Otherwise, thank you.
No, just thank you so much for making this happen, for leading on this podcast, and I think this is super valuable. So you're just going to make a great example on the platform community. So thank you so much, you too.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. It's really valuable, and I really hope that it will be just the beginning of common projects that can really make everyone learn from each other and cooperate at an higher level. Thank you very much.